Here for the Bean and Sync 366 video series. Yay! It is Friday. It feels like a blur this week, and isn't that how it often goes around the holidays? I'm Kiana Sage here for another video today. This is emotional responsibility. Such an exciting topic. Such an exciting topic. Let's see, what's the question we should ask in the poll today? I'll wait about 5 minutes to see if who joins us today. I know it's a little bit later than I normally come on here, but hey, better late than not at all. Hello, Jono. Good to see you. Where have you been, my friend? Hope you are well. Hi, Brian. Hello, Oliver. Thank you so much. More joy, everybody. I'm advertising it today. Silent Hobbies, hello, good to see you. I love it. Love that you all are here. More joy. We got to bring it, right? And this goes with the topic. Today's topic is emotional responses. And it's really going to be an interesting one. I got to write it down because I want to say something else and I changed it. Hey, Sleek. Good to see you. I've been okay, going through some heavy emotions. All right, well, you're in the right place. They're up. They are up. I hope that what I share today will be empowering for you in your process. It's not easy to contend with our emotional stuff, right? Because nowhere do we learn in our life until we're going through something rough and then we're like, we need to manage this differently. This just is not working this way. So it's a perfect topic. And you know what? The emotions tend to come up around the holiday times anyways. Hello, nature. Good to see you. We're just waiting about 5 minutes before we get started on the topic here. Love my thanks. It's a little bit warm here, but maybe I don't need this today. I was cold earlier. Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome in, everybody. Hello, India. Hello, hello. So I've been coming on doing these videos. This is the Being in Sync 366 video series. If you're new here, I come on almost every day. I missed 2 days for this Being in Sync 366 video series. But trust me, there's more than 366 videos on this channel. All of the videos are the intention is to provide actionable items that you can go out and put into use yourself, because we are our own healers. Yes, there are people like me out there that help people on their journey, help them to facilitate the process so they can align quicker, easier. But there are those of you, and I know you're out there, that like to do it on your own. And I get it, because we need to do our own work. Nobody's going to do the heavy lifting for us. So when we have practical applications, we can test out and see, well, what works for me, right? And I'm also sharing things that I wish somebody would have told me. So today we're talking about emotional responses. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you. Nicholas is trying to trick me. Thanks. Why don't you turn on your volume? That may have worked at the beginning of these videos, but that doesn't work anymore. So today we're talking about emotional responsive. And I am going to ask a question. So the question is, I'm going to ask this. Here's the question I'm going to put in the polls here for y'all. Okay. I think I know the answer to this. Good to see you here. Another person saying no audio. I was, hey Mick, good to see you. When I do voice to text for the poll, it goes no audio. Thank you. Oh. No, I'm not the person you've been talking with on WhatsApp. 100%. I don't even have that app on my phone. Okay, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and start. So today we're talking about emotional responses. Okay, so this really a simple topic because if you're having an emotional response, that's number one. You want to have awareness. What is my emotional response? How am I responding to this situation? Is this the response that I want to have? Is it something I'm aware of, or am I catching myself before it's too late? So number two, responsibility. If you have awareness of something emotionally, you are responsible for it. So nobody is causing your emotions to be what they are. Those are fully, totally, 100% your responsibility. So I'm kind of giving you the answer to the question in the poll, but it's an important question to ask yourself because a lot of people blame other people for the situations that they are experiencing. And when we blame other people, we then go into a place of weakness and vulnerability, meaning we don't have the power to change. Only when we are accepting full responsibility for our reactions, for our emotions, noticing that this person is triggering or causing me to feel this does not mean that they are the cause of it. It means that that thing, whatever it is, that emotion that you're feeling is yours. And because it's yours, you get a choice. And this is where you get to make a conscious choice. You get to either choose to fully process your emotion, and then you can consciously choose, is this the direction I want to keep going down? Do I want to keep being upset, angry, frustrated, or do I want to have a different experience with this situation? If you go back to the video from 2 days ago, I did a whole video on life hacks. That is about putting you in your power position. Now, most people are operating off of a program that they are not consciously aware of, but exists in the field, the energetic field, and it's called victimizer. They victimize themselves and they become a victim, which is a place of powerlessness, and there's no responsibility there. So it's very challenging to change your situation and change your experience when you're in a state of powerlessness. And that state usually is defensive. It's usually argumentative, and it usually comes with it an assault within yourself because you get mad at yourself for being in the situation that you're in, and that compounds the situation. So it basically is it's a descending spiral into a place that's not very fun and makes it much more difficult to process. So the gift in the awareness is that when you have an awareness that you're having an experience, and I'll get to the chats and the questions after I'm finished here, but when you have an awareness that you're having an emotion like I'm mad, or I'm angry, or I'm frustrated, or I'm sad, or I'm hurt, you can choose to bring it up in the moment, or you can process it through on your own and then decide if it's worthy of a discussion. So if it's with your partnership, obviously it's something that's worthy of a discussion. But ultimately, your feelings are your feelings. But if it's something that's happening in a partnership where there's two people, right, you have agreements. And part of the agreement is to have discussions, right? So you both can grow and change and evolve. Oftentimes, those conversations can be challenging, but also worthy of the relationship. So the worthiness comes within the emotional responsibility. you taking full responsibility for your emotions, your willingness to value your emotions, your access point to your soul, which is what the emotional body is, and having the wherewithal to acknowledge and discuss it and make a decision. Am I going to have a discussion about this, or is this just mine? Is this person just who they are? Yeah, everybody is just who they are, right? And so you have a choice all the time in how you become aware of your emotional responses. When you have that awareness is when you have the most power to make a choice. Most of the time, the vast majority of people are choosing to blame the other people as the cause. They caused this. They're never the cause. They might be a trigger, but they're not the cause. Okay, the cause is something within you that needs your attention. And you are the only one that can address your emotional responses, your situation within you. Now, you might be fun or helpful to process it with somebody, but it's not required because ultimately you are responsible for your emotional baggage. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, you're responsible for it. So when we take full responsibility, we can also become whole. We can become well. We can become healed through our willingness to just simply acknowledge our emotions. Now, simply put, our emotions don't need to be processed, folks. They do not need to be processed intellectually. They only need to be fully acknowledged, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Our emotions need to be acknowledged in all those bodies, and that's when they start to transmute. Now, I know when mine have transmuted. Do you know when yours have? You should have a distinction within yourself to know when your emotions have processed all the way through. How I know is I feel more at ease, more free, more calm. When they're not processed, you'll feel less at ease, the opposite. But you want to make those distinctions within yourself because your body will always be speaking to you. That's how I knew I was an empath, is because my body was a tool for information that I was picking up on in the field. When I was an empath, I didn't know I was an empath. I didn't know there was a word for what it was that I was doing until I learned about it later. But when you start to pick up on information from others, they may not be conscious of what you're conscious of. So that's another distinction that you'll have to become aware of. So the two most important things from this video, I'm going to say right now. Any emotional response is absolutely your responsibility. So emotions, responsibility. They're yours, 100%. Whether you pick it up or not depends on how much empowered you will be to create change in your life, to be a co-creator of your reality. If you defer, you're probably deferring to some nefarious energies that aren't going to support your expansion. So that's the choice that you make by not choosing. Okay, so we're going to see what y'all are saying in the chat here. And Jono, I definitely want to hear how I could support you, okay? You're not alone. Nobody's alone, y'all. Nobody's alone. Okay, let's see. Advice for dealing with depression. Glock is asking for advice for dealing with depression. And I would say depression is not what people think it is. And I'm not a therapist or a doctor. I do what's called energy psychology. That is taking the patterns that are running in the field, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, and bringing greater alignment within. Okay, so in general terms, there is lots of things that could be causing depression. You can look at, in general, right? Because I'm not a doctor and I don't know you, but in general, you would want to look at how good is your diet? Are you eating foods that support expansion, or are you eating foods that cause constriction? Are you having some allergies or reactions or negative interference with your environment? Are you taking healthy steps to address incongruence, where you feel separate from your heart? And I would say overall, any disconnection from your heart, your sense of wellness within, could cause a great sense of depletion, also known as depression. But that's just general terms there. So my suggestion is connect with your heart, do conscious breathing, look at the different aspects of how you're making conscious choices in your life, and begin to become aware. Don't let depression define you. Become aware of the power that you have to change your situation. Because you have an awareness of a feeling of a particular way, you also have awareness that you can co-create a different reality for yourself. And there's a lot of power in that. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, Pakistan. Hello. Okay. Mick, I hope you're feeling better. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Nicholas. I was doing voice to text. Okay. Okay, nobody. Hey, hello there. Nobody is somebody here. I say that every time. Hello. Oh, thank you so much. Thanks, nobody. That was very nice. I'm going to pin your message. Jono says, that's a tough question because I get emotional and I take responsibility, I find. Okay, so Jono, when you notice you're getting emotional, what you want to do is honor that. It's okay to get emotional. So the more you recognize your emotions, the less emotional or out of balance you will be. And Jono, I'm just assuming that you're saying that emotional and that you think that you're out of balance. So that's an assumption I'm making based on your comment. So if I'm incorrect, I'm sorry. But when you are out of balance emotionally, it will happen that you're not comfortable with it. If you are taking 100% responsibility, make sure you're not taking responsibility for other people's emotions. So I'll tell you a short story. And I was in an executive meeting. It was the executive director and another executive on the team. And they were having a spirited discussion, and I was there. I was brought in as an observer and a witness, and they both so astutely practiced what their consultant had taught them, is that the other person was trying to blame the executive director was trying to blame the other executive for their feelings, and the executive said, I'm not responsible for your feelings. And so as a proud consultant observing, I'm seeing how the executive director, who was already unhinged, is going to manage this, okay? And he came further unhinged. See, when you don't take responsibility for other people's emotions, it tends to trigger them. You can be a mirror that holds it up. It will trigger them. And sometimes they will get very defensive. Sometimes they will get mad, angry. You never know how they're going to react, but you cannot take responsibility for other people's emotions because you cannot fix it. They are responsible for their emotions. You're responsible for yours. Now, you can honor each other's feelings by recognizing them. You take responsibility for recognizing yours, and the other person takes responsibility for recognizing theirs. And now you can decipher more clearly, now that we've kind of calmed the emotions down, what the actual issue is. Because when emotions are heightened or defensive or angry or projecting, you're never going to see what the issue is. And then then you're not even going to have resolution. And sometimes resolution is not possible, but it's for sure impossible when you don't even understand or agree what the situation or problem is. Once you have an issue, then you can go forward in looking at what are the potential resolutions for that or ways in which we can get clarity. But you can't do that when there are emotions that need to be processed on the other person's side, because you can't process them for them. But you do need to process your own. And oftentimes one person will say, you did this and it caused this. And that might be their version of reality, and that's okay. But they're still responsible for how they feel. You didn't make them feel a particular way. They had the feelings. Those feelings are theirs. They need to own them. They're the only ones that can correct it. So you can witness them, you can observe them, you can honor them, but you must honor your own too. You might have a reaction to them not owning their stuff. Like, how dare you? Like, that's not even mine. Why are you blaming me for your feelings when go feel your feelings? So these two grown men, executives, having this experience, and I'm witnessing it, and the executive director is blaming the executive for his feelings, and the executive saying, sir, I understand that you're feeling that way. I'm not responsible for your feelings. And he's like, and then they look at me. And I'm proud because I'm seeing one person's doing their work and the other one's trying to pawn it off on the other guy, and it doesn't really work, and it doesn't resolve. So the executive director became more and more unhinged because he was incapable of managing his emotions. Incapable. Now, what makes somebody incapable? Well, a lot of times it's their lack of willingness, so it's a defensive, an ego defensiveness. It could be a wound defensiveness. It could be that the pain is too great for them to really comprehend their responsibility with it. And so that's something to consider. Either way, you need to do an assessment. Number one, how well are you managing your feelings? How well are you feeling your feelings? If you feel like you're out of balance, that's your responsibility to get in balance. And I promise you, it's not that hard. All you need to do is be willing to fully acknowledge your emotions. And you could set up a session if you don't know how to do it, but you really just need to acknowledge your emotions physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And notice the distinction when it's been completed. And stay with one emotion. And when you finish one, guess what? There might be another one right underneath it. Because usually emotions come stacked when you don't know how to process your emotions. But once you get keen at it, it'll go quick. It won't take that long. And you should be an expert at managing your emotions. Your mental stability really does require emotional stability. Okay, so hopefully that helps a little bit, Jono. No, I am not a lawyer either. I'm not. Hi, Paul. Good to see you here. Hello, hello, everybody. Thank you for moderating here, everybody. Movie Shorts Society says we all need to take responsibility for our emotional responses. And it is a practice. In practice, it almost never happens unless you're trained. Well, even trained people could forget. And it's just that it is exactly what you said, Movie. It is a practice. It's a daily practice because our emotions, if we're connected to them, they're a window. You know, the eyes are not the window to the soul. Everybody says that, but it's really your emotions. Your emotions will tell you how connected you are to your soul. And if you're disconnected, unhinged, mentally unstable, like I would say that this executive director definitely needed other assistance that was beyond my repertoire. And I said as such, because he was not stable. He was beyond what I work with. because I'm not a therapist. I never, ever pretend to be a therapist or a psychologist. That's not my lane. I don't do prescriptions. I don't do anything like that. I do energy psychology. Now, that doesn't mean I don't work with people that aren't processing emotions. You don't need to be a therapist to know how to process emotions. And I think that's probably where people get really misled in our society, that they think to understand their emotions, they need to see a therapist. No, you just need to honor your emotions. That means witness them, recognize them, acknowledge them, observe them. They don't need to be processed. You don't need to intellectualize them. They need to be witnessed. That's it. It's really not more complicated than that. It's the intellectualizing the emotions that gets people in problems. That's why they go to a therapist, so they can pontificate their stories. That's in my opinion. Because of what do people do in therapy? They tell stories, their own version of a story, which is distorted through the perceptions of their emotions. Because when you're out of balance emotionally, it's going to change how you perceive. 100%. Tava is saying outward responses are inward response. Both are responses, but very different with different consequences. Interesting. Either way, what we're both saying, and I think we're in agreement, is that it's 100% your responsibility. So how you choose to stuff your emotions down, which most people do, pretend that doesn't exist, go into denial because they don't want to deal with them, then it becomes an issue mentally. There are kids in the live stream scroll. Your YouTubes are being put in the same class as kids. I don't understand how that's happening. That's interesting. Thank you for sharing that, AM. This content wouldn't, I don't know why a kid would want to watch it unless they want to be emotionally stable. And if that's the case, there's nothing bad here. But that's interesting. I didn't know that. Because it even asks you if you want to be, if this is for younger people. And I always say no. Happiness and humility, 99. Yes. Hi, Nick. Red Hunter, hello. Good to see you. Somebody's saying something about worshiping Jesus as God. Well, there is a Christ consciousness, but it's a consciousness, y'all. It's a consciousness. And God is God. Create your relationships. Okay, just looking for questions. Hello, Russia. Hello, Russia. Brazil. Is this a lecture? Okay, Jono is saying being emotionally reactive, not being able to talk it out is hard for many. Sometimes, Jono, you have to come back after things have calmed down a bit. And you are absolutely right that there are different levels of emotional maturity and emotional intelligence. And this is often because people have not contended with their wounds. And that changes how they are able to talk about things. That doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means that it may be at a different pace than somebody else. Reactivity, you know, I used to get angry super fast. I didn't have a problem with being angry, like getting mad and saying what I thought, and then I'd move on. But some people are uncomfortable with that, and therefore you have to address that. It needs to be negotiated. I think that's the most important thing. Red Hunter says, betrayal gets me very emotional. Me too. I go overboard. Well, I don't know what that means. But, you know, betrayal is usually Red Hunter, a soul lesson. If you've had a lot of betrayal in your life, it's often a soul lesson. And there are lessons to be learned there. And the more you learn the lessons, meaning you go and you just like, okay, this last betrayal, I want to learn all the lessons I need to learn from this situation. And you kind of intuit, at least I do. I'll intuit how many lessons do I need to learn from this particular situation. And I will literally go through that situation and I will make myself become conscious and aware of things that I was unconscious of previously. So I learn the lesson and then I integrate it. So that would be very helpful, Red Hunter, for you to do it. That's a very methodical, technical way to do it, but it works. And I'm sure there are other ways to do it, but that's the way I know for certain works. So I offer that to you as something to do on your own. I know a lot of people don't like to take time for that. I have other healer friends. They don't want to do that. They don't want to do the work. And I would say this is another piece about consciousness, is that a lot of people don't really understand that to access higher levels of consciousness requires an aptitude to hold a higher frequency. And that takes work to be able to hold that frequency. And it's not the kind of work that you think it is. It's completely unconventional. The work is the coming down of the illusion, the untethering from the way you used to think to a new way of perceiving. It's very different than a thought process, and it's more about an experience. Hi, Jocelyn. Aubrey, somebody asked that question earlier, are you a psychologist? The answer is no, but you can go earlier, or you could read the description in my thing to learn more about me. Movie says, let's be honest with ourselves here. We're all emotionally responsive, whether we like it or not, even you. I think that the key word is responsibility. It's not about being responsive. It's, are we all taking emotional responsibility? And I think I said, do you emotionally react? And that's different than taking 100% full responsibility. Because if you're taking 100% responsibility, that means that you're not reacting, you are responding. There's a distinction there, movie. Let's be honest. Mick is saying, I stopped fighting my emotions and looking for excuses to things going wrong in my life, and I made changes to fix whatever's going on. That's 100% responsibility. And there is what you're saying, I stopped fighting, there is a bit of surrender in that, right? When you're observing your emotions, you're surrendering to them, you're going into full acknowledgement and honor. And that's a good thing. That's a healing thing. Hi, Zoya. Good to see you. Hi, Perry. Ada, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Ada? 80 pack? I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I'm sorry. So we shouldn't play victim and be offended by somebody else's opinion. Well, that's a lower frequency choice. Playing victim and being offended, that's all ego. There's no power in that. And there's only blame. So you can't really change. And everybody has opinions. So why would you waste any energy in being offended by somebody's opinion? I once had, a couple weeks ago, I told this story. I had a girlfriend who asked me a question, and I gave her an answer, and she said she was offended. And I said, then why'd you ask my opinion? Like, you know, everybody has an opinion. You have a choice in being offended. And being a victim is also a choice. And that choice brings you into a much lower disempowered state, which is not easy to get out of. So I would make another choice where you are not a victim and you are responsible. I'm describing feminism. I don't know what you're talking about. This is emotions. If you think that's feminism, okay. There has been a lot of liars, a lot of liars, and they're liars of emotions. Yes, one after another, like turning the pages in the book. But no joke. You made me laugh. A lot of people who lie don't even know that they're lying. They believe their lies. So, and a lot of people have suppressed their emotions so much that it's fragmented, not only their emotional body, but their mental body. And that's why we have so much instability in our societies. We can't fix everybody, but we can address and take responsibility for our own emotions. And that's, again, where your power is. Your emotions are not a bad thing. It's not bad to be emotional. It's not bad to have emotions. That means you're alive, you're living, you're here, you're feeling. Those are all human aspects that are to be embraced, not diminished. But again, I think it's important to say, like, how you believe is going to dictate how you process your emotions as well. Hi, Tammy. Hello, hello. Good to see you here, Tammy. Tito is saying, I only worship science. Well, if you haven't gotten enough data that science is based on perception, and it's often based on the perception of who's getting money. Science is quite flawed, and science has not been able to even keep the pulse on consciousness at all. Okay, Jono is saying, thanks for your support. I'm doing well and handling my emotions. Heartbreak, but I overreacted at first. Well, heartbreak is different than just being emotional, right? That's like your heart, the first thing you want to do is protect, and that's what you do when you overreact, right? But now that you've had chance to step back, I would offer you, Jono, what is it that you need to learn from that relationship? And like intuit that number and go get all the learning. And once you get the learning, that shifts your perception from heartbreak into expansion, and the heartbreak will go away, but the learning has to be primary. Expansion, and then it will be easier to go into gratitude. It's very difficult and challenging to go into gratitude for somebody who was a jerk, right? Because we're thinking they're a jerk, and oftentimes they are jerky. They do jerky things, It's not to dismiss their behavior, but we're going to learn from people who do jerky things because it happens. And so what do you need to learn from that so you can resonate with somebody who has a different capacity moving forward? Oh, congratulations, new mother here. Okay, great. Oh, it looks like we have a couple breakups here. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm devastated. I don't know how I ended up here, or who are you? Why I'm even writing, but I wish I could be dead a while ago. I'm so sorry for your pain, Gray. But your emotions are a doorway into your soul. And don't be afraid to feel that what you feel today is going to shift from moment to moment to moment. So don't make rash decisions. And if you are afraid, go find a good friend to be with you. I'm not giving parenting advice. I'm talking about emotional responsibility. Jono, I went to shame spiral because I felt betrayed. I felt like I betrayed their trust, but it's hard as I don't feel that way, but I can understand and feel feel feelings deeply. Well, great awareness, Jono. And the shame might be, my sense of it is that you took, you're taking responsibility for their feelings is kind of how I'm sensing what you're saying there. And it's good to have compassion, but you can't take responsibility for how somebody else is feeling. You can have compassion and acknowledge, and maybe you did something to contribute, and you could take responsibility for that, but you can't take away how they feel. There are many times, Jono is saying, there are many times when I felt betrayed and hurt, being stonewalled, ignored, and not being able to maturely discuss options, lied to. I just never really let my own needs, wants known. Beautiful. That's a great learning right there. First of all, those are coping mechanisms, being stonewalled, ignored, and not being able to emotionally and emotional maturity, discuss things, shows you who they are and what you're contending with. Those are people that are typically have coping mechanisms to protect themselves and are stunted for some reason or another. Maybe it's a trauma, maybe it's a situation you know nothing about. It's not really your business unless they decide to discuss it with you. But what is your business is you saw it and accepted that behavior. And that acceptance allows that to perpetuate throughout the relationship. So that's another thing. What you accept perpetuates. So if you are in agreement with that behavior and you allow it to continue, that means that that's okay with you. You agree with it. Even though you're saying you don't, because you let it slide once, maybe twice, now you got a pattern, now you got a problem. Now you've gone into agreement with something that you want to change. And that's often very difficult to do with relationships. It's not always easy to change it, but it can change. But it takes two to discuss it. And oftentimes discussing it needs to be done when one person is not triggered. You know, you want both people to not be triggered, but oftentimes people have a difficult time having difficult discussions. But there's a lot of value that comes from them. There's a lot of expansion. There's a lot of understanding. And there's also learning. And when you learn, you can adjust. Like you learn something new about the person that you didn't understand. Again, you can't take the triggers away, but when you both have an understanding that somebody's triggered, oh, okay, so how can I support you in going deeper? What is it that is needed? And all you could do is to invite them to go into it. You can't fix it for them. Bill is saying 60 degrees that comes on 3 watches. Oh. I don't know what you're talking about, Bill. Jono says that's really deep to move from heartbreak to gratitude for a lesson. I really think we're still resonant souls, but I hope she can also shift to gratitude learning as well. Well, that learning is going to begin with you, right? You invite it by being the change. And when you're growing and changing, it's always an invitation to whoever's in your field to do the same. But ultimately, people have to make their own conscious choices. And everybody has different paces. I have a different pace than my husband has. And that doesn't make my pace better than his. It's just different. And it takes a negotiation. And it's not always easy. Okay, Tito. Thank you. Muscle therapy. What would you say to someone who holds on to hurt from a relationship? What would I say to someone who holds on to hurt? Well, if they were in front of me, I'd ask, how does that make them feel? If they were sharing to me and they said, I hold on to hurt from a relationship, I would say, how does that work for you? And I would want to get more information, because when people are holding on to hurt, it's serving them in some way. It's serving them either staying stuck, staying hurt, staying where they're at. And they're consciously choosing it if they're actually saying that to me. Oh, Sleek Hobbies, you're not that far away. I'm in Orange County. Good to see you. Palm Springs is nice this time of year. Okay, so going back to muscle therapy. So I would want to know more information, but many people are comfortable in pain, muscle therapy, and I'm sure you know that. They become accustomed to it. And so who would they be without that hurt is a question that I would ask too. Who would you be if you chose to not have that hurt? How would you express differently? How would you be different? Jono is saying, I feel unconditional love for her, and I think it would be hard, but I love to help her heal from her past relationship trauma and my own past trauma. Jono, there's a book. I don't know if you got it before. Keeping the Love You Find from Harville Hendrix. It's one of the few books that I feel comfortable and confident recommending. It's a deep dive. You will learn so much about yourself. And if she is willing to do the workbook with you, you guys could really share about your insights and your awarenesses that you're having about yourself. And that could be a way for you two to connect. But either way, I would recommend that book for yourself, because you know, we don't have to have past relationship trauma that carries into another relationship. We have enough family baggage, don't you think, that you need to bring in your ex-boyfriends too? Oh my goodness. It's a matter, wonder any relationship survive. Mick is saying, I said, oh, layers, not liars. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Mick. Oh, Mick, you made me laugh again. I'm sorry. You're right on both of those. That's so funny. Okay, muscle therapy, I'm glad that's helpful. Everything you say resonates. Okay, I'm so glad, Jono. Well, we're just about at 50 minutes here, and if you guys don't have any other questions, I just want to end with emotional responsibility. You got to be responsible for your own emotions, and it really doesn't take that much work to become an expert at it. So make that like your task for the next year, to become your emotional expert. Rakesh, hello. I see you here. Be an expert at processing your own emotions, and make sure you can understand and feel the distinctions when it's processed all the way through. You're going to feel different within your body. You want to be able to understand that distinction, because if you only do it through two bodies and you left the other two bodies, that means it's going to come up again. This is how the patterns repeat again and again, and they even loop, and nobody wants to be on that emotional roller coaster. And Jono, it sounds like you and your partner are kind of mirroring some emotional stuff here, and once you process yours, your unconditional love will just accept her exactly how she is. And if she doesn't want to do her work, you can't make her do it. But you can lead by an example, and when she sees that you're more stable, she's going to want to up her game if she wants to be with you. And you must know that you're a catch. If you are emotional stable, that's a catch. Rakesh is saying, does Does telepathy really a thing? Well, I'm a telepath, so I'd say, yeah, it's really a thing. Thank you, Mick. Thank you, Mick. Thank you for making me laugh today. I'm so sorry about my mistake. Okay, y'all. Well, thank you so much for your time and presence. If you're new here, I come on here every day for the Being in Sync 366 video series. If you like meaningful content aligned with the natural laws and practices that help you grow and expand, then tune in. See you tomorrow for another video. Bye. All right, Jono, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. Bye.